Hi everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California, and I want to do a Q&A or kind of a question on food. Everybody asks the same question, so let's get this out of the way. And what I'm going to do is, instead of you seeing me just sit there and answer questions, I'm going to let you enjoy the birds. There's not that many right now because they've been feeding earlier, but they're coming in for their last feeding. The sun is just starting to go down, but we still have, we have about 3 hours left of daylight, so they will still start coming in more. And what's out there, just in case you want to know, there's a few different water fountains I've made, and then there's the ice cream containers, if you can see those. Those are the round ones that are painted. I've got a sunflower on one, I've got my name on another, and then I've got a coffee cup there, and that's got a peanut butter cup, the one that I make. And then there's a dot out there on the plant. And that's pretty much it for right now. There is a bowl, a pizza bowl, and that's for the Orioles. There hasn't been quite as many. A lot of birds move around with the heat. They find cooler areas, and then they come back. So this morning there were thousands, and then they kind of disappeared. Let's talk about the recipe. That is what the Hummingbird Nectar is. It's a recipe. If you're going to make a small amount, and you can make it and put it in the fridge and keep it in the fridge for about a week, it is 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar and 1 cup of water. There's no ratio. Everybody talks about ratios. We are not talking about a ratio. Sugar is a compound that mixes with water and becomes one. So if you mix 1/4 cup of sugar with 1 cup of water, you will still have 1 cup. Don't ask me how it works. I'm not a scientist, but that is the way it is. But think of the nectar that you are making as a recipe. If you are making chocolate chip cookies, are you going to figure out a ratio of how many chocolate chips to add in to your cookies, or how much butter? Or, I mean, it's not really a ratio when you're baking. It's a recipe. So this is a hummingbird recipe. It is the same nectar. It is sucrose that comes out of flowers, and that's all you want to offer them. So again, it's 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar mixed with water, 1 cup of water. If you can drink your tap water, they can too. If you have problems with your tap water, use filtered or bottled water. That is all you need. Because remember, they are getting water out of the streets. Anywhere they find water, if they're not finding it from you and you don't have a fountain out, then they're going to find water from your sprinklers. When you're watering your lawn, they're using the tap water around the city, whatever water they can find, unless somebody's got a pond, and then they'll go in there and grab some water. Or morning dew, they drink morning dew as well. So that is not tap water unless you've watered, and then you have water droplets sitting on your plants. I love them. They're so cute. Then they'll drink that water. So don't worry about the water. As far as boiling it, you do not have to boil it. I boil part of the water so the sugar will dissolve clear. I don't want bits and pieces of sugar floating around. I want it clear, so I use part boiled water, then the rest of it cold water or cold tap water, and I let it sit so it's not hot when I put it out. It'll be room temperature. The reason you don't have to boil it is, yes, you'll see bacteria get into the feeder. The bacteria is coming from their beak, all right? It's not coming from the sugar. The sugar is pure. It is coming from their beak. So when they're sticking their beak in the feeder and going in and out and then foraging around the yard, they're picking up little bits of bacteria. And that is something I want to talk about next. Honey. I've had a few of you come in and tell me you've been adding honey to the water. I'm going to ask you to please not add honey. Think of infants. Infant botulism. Do you know what that is? It's rare, but because it does occur, babies, human babies, are not allowed to have honey until they're over a year old, and some people wait till 2. Honey has the ability to grow botulism. They have spores sometimes in there. Us being adults, strong immune system, the little bit that gets in there won't bother us. But with infants, it does. Well, it can finish off a hummingbird. If you put the honey in the water that you're making your recipe with, you are now potentially opening it up for spores of botulism. So if they come back and they have a little bit, let's say, of botulism on their beak, and they poke their beak in the water that has honey, honey will just grab that and can start to grow botulism. So please don't use honey. Honey is no good. I know that sometimes in the wild they have been seen to be licking on sap coming from trees, probably maple trees or a type of tree like that. When they make maple syrup, think of how many gallons they need, and that's a ratio, and I don't know the exact ratio, but how much they need to make a little bit of syrup. It is 99% water pretty much. So what they're going for is possibly the sweetness of the sap and as well as the water. But keep in mind, the sap is a tree. It is a plant. Plants is what they feed on. I'm not saying to give them syrup. Please do not, because it can create a problem. But that is natural. If they see it and they want it, it's rare, but if they want it, that's okay. It's from a plant. Honey is not from a plant. It has been processed by bees. So keep that in mind. So on the recipe, all you need is a 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar, that's table sugar, and 1 cup of water mixed well, and you can put the whole thing out in the feeder if you've got a ton of birds. If you don't have a ton of birds, then just put a small amount out. Put a 1/4 cup out, leave it out for 2 days or something, and then bring in the feeder, wash it up, and then refill it until you're out and you can make it again. As far as red dye, it is not good for them. They don't need it. They're not coming to the red dye, the red color. They're coming to the feeder. Hummingbirds are so smart. I mean, think about it. They're one of the smartest birds on this earth. Their brain is big compared to their body, and they have to be smart. Look at the size they are. They have to remember where they saw food. So if they leave here and go miles, hundreds or thousands of miles away, when they are migrating through, they remember. They know where they found food. Well, they know what a hummingbird feeder looks like. The cheaper the feeder, the better they know it. And you go, what? What does that mean? You go to the Dollar Tree, dollar store, wherever, you find these dollar feeders. Why do they know it? Because everybody's putting them out. So they see that feeder, they know what it is, and they will dart to that feeder because they know exactly what it is. You get a very fancy, beautiful feeder, you're the only one with it, they're not going to know what it is. So they may bypass it. They might fly by, see it, not even realize it's a feeder. Then you're going, well, wait a minute. Why do I see a few hummingbirds sitting right now on the ice cream containers? Here comes more to feed out of an ice cream container. Well, we have here, during the winter, we have estimated at times close to 3,000 hummingbirds here. During the summer, we have less because they travel up north and they go all the way, some of them, to Alaska, where they have longer days, more sunlight up north, which means they don't have to worry as much about food because there's going to be plenty of flowers up there. The point is, when they come back here, they learn. It only takes one hummingbird to go over to something he's never seen before, poke his beak in there and go, ah, there's food in here. And then everybody follows. That's how the orioles find all this food. They watch the hummingbirds. They see the hummingbirds feeding out of a bowl, they're going to come feed out of a bowl. They see them feeding out of the ice cream containers, they come and feed out of the ice cream containers. They learn from each other. So I think we covered a lot today. I want to kind of keep these short and go over questions and really get into details on them, because I think it's a really good topic. And the hummingbirds here, the reason they don't fight, for multiple reasons, let's say. First of all, many of them were born here. And as soon as you create that family spirit, they don't fight. Now, that is not to say we don't have roofers come through here that decide they're going to take a feeder over. Now, seriously, if you were in a parking lot and you got mad at somebody and you wanted to pick a fight, and it's just you, and they got a family of 100 standing there with them, are you really going to pick a fight with that person if he's got 100 family members behind him ready to jump in? I don't think so. They try it. They'll push a few around, but they're not going to get anywhere. They're going to burn their energy, and they're not going to continue it. They're going to give up. And then they just figure, oh, well, I'll just join the crowd. So that's basically why they're not fighting, because I have multiple feeders. What you see right now on the deck, and they absolutely love the ice cream containers, is I also have dozens of feeders all over. And this is an all-day job from early in the morning until the sun goes down. And they can feed on the deck. And like I said, there's very few right now. I'll have to do this more in the morning when they come in. That's when they really come in. And you'll be able to see how many there are, even in the summer right now. And then, like I said, they've got them all over the window, and there's some in the garden. So I've got feeders everywhere. So they can kind of spread out and feed where they want. So it works out really good. I'm always making new feeders, and these birds know it. So I can walk out there with anything, and they're going to come over and check it out. It's the funniest thing. I absolutely love them. I don't even know how I'd live without them. I'm so used to them. And it's fortunate that we don't go anywhere. We're always here. So it's a matter of making sure the feeders are full and clean. I actually have cameras on the feeders, not to just watch them, because I really don't watch them that way. I watch them when I'm home, out the window. But I can, if I'm in the garden and I think they might be running low, I can check the cameras and see how many feeders. Let's say out the window there's times there's anywhere from 6 to 12 feeders out the window. And I can see if 1 or 2 of them are empty, or if most of them are empty, or they're getting low. So I watch the feeders. Believe you me, I watch the feeders. And when I do go away for the day, like I went to visit my parents, I make sure there's double the feeders out, even though I'm only going to be gone for, I don't know, let's say 6 hours. I still worry. So everything is full and taken care of in the morning. And we go through gallons a day. I did not start with this many. I've got a lot of videos on them. You can watch them. We literally started with maybe 1 around here. And then all of a sudden, I started putting 1 feeder here, 1 feeder there, and then there was 1 bird. Then all of a sudden, as spring went on, there were 3 birds. Well, what it was mom or a couple moms were having babies. And the first thing mom does is she brings them to the feeders when they start to fly. They don't fly in the beginning. They perch, and she feeds them. But once they start to fly, I've actually seen her bring them to the feeders. And then they learn what the feeders are. Now, keep in mind, if some of those are females, once they have babies, let's say the following year, their babies are going to start hanging around. They continue to get used to the area and stay here and used to each other, and then it builds on that. Most of these, I'm going to say, were raised here in the area, as well as they attracted other birds that were migrating through. They come through and they have that high pitch squeal. They can hear it, other birds, and so they hear other ones feeding. They don't travel together like your geese travel and they migrate. They don't migrate in a group like that. They migrate on their own. It just so happens a lot of them are going to the same place, so it looks like they're migrating, but it goes back to breeding. The female, once the male breeds with her, she never sees him again. He has nothing to do with the nest. If you want to see an interesting video, I did a video on that, and a lot of people don't realize that. Look around. Look around your yard and you'll see house finches and all these birds, goldfinches and hawks and everything. Both parents feed and take care of the babies. Nope, not hummingbirds. She can have 3-4 nests in 1 year, and she does it all by herself. I had a hummingbird on the side of the house by the garage raise 2 nests really at the same time. As soon as the babies hatched and had some size to them in the summer and she didn't have to sit, she built a second nest about 15 feet from it, and she serviced both those nests. So she was raising 4 babies at one point at the same time. So they're amazing birds, absolutely amazing. And if we can help them, please go ahead if you can. Either get flowers, and we're starting to plant tons more flowers, or put out some nectar. Don't listen to some of the people saying, no, don't feed them, because here's the problem. Their numbers will dwindle if we don't help in some way. We have a lot of places that have weed abatement, so everything has to be taken down, which means they're native plants that they feed on, especially in the area, because of weed abatement. A lot of people have cut back on their garden, so they don't have as many flowers as they used to. There's a lot of things going on, with things being warmer and less flowers, and when it's hot, it's harder for them to find flowers. Now, I want you to know that they would prefer flowers, and they do. They get up in the morning, they come here, they feed out the window, they feed on the ice cream containers like you see them now. That one's feeding on the green one that has the sunflower. They feed in the morning and then they're gone. They take off and they are foraging. They could go miles and forage for food. If they do not find enough, they come back because they know that there's food here. And if they find enough, they may not come back until tomorrow. So that's why it is really good for us to supplement them. I mean, after all, I'm pretty sure most of you are not living off your garden and not going to a grocery store, right? Think about it. You're going to the grocery store to feed you and your family. Well, they may not have the luxury of that grocery store in their backyard enough to keep many of them going. And very young birds, if they don't find enough food, will perish. That's why they have so many babies, because I guess their numbers would be lower. So I think with that, I've talked enough for the first time doing this setup. If you like this setup, let me know. If you want me to try to do this live, or not me, but maybe just set up the camera, and at times when there's a bunch of them coming through, let me know and I'll set the camera up so you can watch. Periodically I'll turn it on. I can't put my phone out the door in the hot summer, but if I can shade it, I'll work something out. That's why I'm doing it in the evening. Main thing, sugar, no honey, and no dye, and everybody will be happy. With that, have a wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow and feed the hummingbirds if you want and if you can. And if not, get a bunch of flowers. Bye-bye.